I thought the most dangerous part of that night was standing 3 feet from something that could kill me without meaning to. I was wrong. The most dangerous part was what came after. Welcome back to Nightfall BL Stories. If you haven't seen episode 2 yet, I would go back to it. We're picking up right where we left off. Now, let's continue. Something changes in you when you've stood that close to danger and chosen, deliberately, not to run from it. I didn't understand that until the days afterward, when I noticed I wasn't flinching anymore at things that should have frightened me. The sound of a car slowing near my building, a stranger holding eye contact half a second too long on the train platform, the particular quiet of my own apartment at night when I used to feel safe in it without thinking twice. I told myself it was nothing. I'd told myself that before, and I'd been wrong before too. It wasn't nothing. They'd been watching Magnus for 3 years. I'd been in his life for less than a month, and it had already taken them exactly that long to realize I mattered, not as a bystander, not as someone incidental to their search, but as something they could use. I didn't know that yet, standing in my kitchen on an ordinary Tuesday morning, pouring coffee into a mug I'd owned since college, thinking about the way Magnus' eyes had looked at me in that alley like I was the only steady thing left in his entire world. I didn't know that somewhere across the city, someone had already started building a file with my name on it. I went back to him 3 more times that week. I stopped pretending, even to myself, that I needed a reason. Magnus had changed since that night in the alley. Not dramatically, not in any way I could have pointed to and named, but there was less distance in the way he sat across from me now. Less bracing, like a man who'd spent 3 years holding his breath and had finally, cautiously, started letting a little of it out. "You shouldn't keep coming here," he told me, the same way he told me every time, though the words had lost whatever weight they used to carry. It had become less of a warning and more of a habit neither of us believed in anymore. "You could try meaning that," I said. "I do mean it." He almost smiled. "Almost. I'm just not very good at making you listen." We sat together on his worn couch that night, close enough that I could feel the warmth coming off him, and for a while we didn't talk about hunters or transformations or the file I was increasingly certain someone was building on me. We just sat there. He told me, quietly, about the man he used to be, small things, the kind you'd never think to mention unless you trusted the person asking. His mother's cooking, a dog he'd had as a kid, the particular ache of driving past his old fire station sometimes, just to see it, even though no one there would recognize him anymore. I told him things too, things I hadn't said out loud in longer than I wanted to admit. At some point his hand found mine on the couch between us, not deliberate, not a decision either of us seemed to make consciously, just 2 hands that had run out of reasons to stay apart. Neither of us pulled away. "Elliot," my name, in his voice, sounded different than it had in anyone else's. "I need you to know that whatever this is becoming, I don't regret it. Even knowing what it's already cost you. Even knowing what it might still cost you." I didn't have an answer for that. Not one made of words, anyway. So I didn't use words. I leaned in instead, slow enough that he had every chance to stop me, every chance to remind me again how dangerous this was, how much safer I'd be walking away. He didn't stop me. If anything, the last of the distance between us seemed to close on its own, like it had been waiting weeks for permission. His hand came up to my jaw, careful, like I was something he still couldn't quite believe he was allowed to touch. And when our lips met, it wasn't rushed or desperate. It was slow and searching and quietly overwhelming. The kind of kiss that feels less like a beginning and more like something that had already been happening for a long time before either of us admitted it out loud. I felt him exhale against me, like he'd been holding his breath for 3 years and had finally let it go. When we broke apart, neither of us moved far. His forehead rested against mine, his hand still warm against my jaw, and for the first time since I'd walked into his life, he didn't look guarded at all. "You should still be afraid of me," he murmured. "I know," I said. "I'm not." He kissed me again like that admission had undone something in him completely. I went home that night, unable to sleep, which had become something of a pattern by then. Instead, I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop, doing what I'd been doing every night for weeks, digging through anything I could find on the incident 3 years ago, hoping some new detail would surface that hadn't the last dozen times I'd looked. This time, something did. Buried in an old digitized department log, a scanned incident report I'd found through a records request I'd half expected to be denied, was a witness list. Names of people questioned after the fire. Most of them meant nothing to me. Firefighters, a building inspector, 2 neighbors, and one name near the bottom, in a scan too faded to be fully certain, that made my chest go tight in a way I didn't have words for yet. A name I recognized. My own. I didn't sleep that night. I sat with that name, my name, on a witness list I had no memory of ever being part of, until the sun came up and I still didn't have an explanation that made any sense. I went straight to Magnus the next evening. I didn't call ahead. I don't think I could have waited long enough to. He opened the door before I even reached it, the way he always did now, like some part of him had started listening for my footsteps on the stairs before I was even close enough to make them. "You look like you haven't slept," he said. "I found something." I held up my phone, the photograph of the report still open on the screen. A witness list. From the incident. My name is on it, Magnus. I don't remember ever being there. I don't remember any of this. But my name is right there, and I don't understand how. And I need you to tell me if you know something I don't. He went very still. The kind of still I'd only seen from him once before, the night I told him about the car. "Where did you find that?" he said. Quiet. Careful. "Does it matter?" "Magnus, were you already dash?" I stopped myself, because I didn't know how to finish that sentence in a way that made sense even to me. "Did you know me? Before any of this? Before the fire?" "No," he said. Too fast, too certain for a man who usually chose his words like they cost him something. "I didn't know you. I would remember you." I wanted to believe him. I did believe him, mostly. But there was something underneath the certainty in his voice that didn't sit right, something I couldn't name yet and didn't push, because the look on his face in that moment wasn't a man lying to me. It was a man afraid of a question he didn't have the answer to either. I left later than I meant to, again. It was becoming a habit I didn't examine too closely. The street outside was quiet in the particular way city streets get quiet right before very early morning. Empty enough that every sound felt too loud, every shadow felt a half-second too long. I told myself it was just late. I told myself a lot of things lately that I only half believed. I was 3 blocks from the train when I heard the footsteps behind me. Not close, not obvious, just steady, matching my pace almost too well to be a coincidence. The kind of following that's designed specifically not to feel like following until it's already too late to pretend otherwise. I didn't turn around. I picked up my pace instead, heart climbing into my throat, running through every excuse for why someone might be walking behind me at this hour and finding all of them thin. I turned a corner sharper than I needed to, just to see. The footsteps turned with me. I ran. I'm not proud of it, exactly, but I also don't think there's a version of that moment where running wasn't the only reasonable thing to do. My body made the decision before the rest of me caught up. Feet pounding pavement, breath tearing at my throat, every streetlight blurring past too fast to mean anything. I didn't get far. A second set of footsteps cut in from a side street ahead of me, and I understood, with a kind of cold clarity that cuts through panic better than panic ever does, that this hadn't been one person following me at all. It had been 2, positioned to make sure I ran directly into the second. A hand closed around my arm before I could change direction. Not rough exactly. Precise, instead, the grip of someone who'd done this before and didn't need to hurt me to control me. Elliot Hayes. A voice, calm, almost pleasant, which somehow made it worse. "You've been spending a lot of time somewhere you shouldn't. I don't know what you're talking about." My voice came out steadier than I felt, which surprised me more than it seemed to surprise them. "You do, actually." A second figure stepped into the dim edge of the streetlight. A woman, unremarkable in every way except for the stillness and how she held herself. Like violence was simply a tool she kept in easy reach rather than something she needed to work herself up to. "We've been looking for our friend for a long time. You've made that considerably easier. I don't know what your dash." "Please." She smiled, and it didn't reach anywhere near her eyes. "Let's not waste each other's time. You're going to help us find him. Whether you do that willingly is entirely up to you." I thought about Magnus' hand finding mine on that couch 2 nights ago. I thought about gold eyes in an alley, calming at the sound of my voice. I thought about every reason I had to protect the fragile, impossible thing that had started growing between us. "I'm not telling you anything," I said. The man's grip on my arm tightened. "We were hoping you'd say that," he said. "It's more useful to us this way." Everything after that happened too fast to properly remember. A cloth pressed hard over my mouth. The sharp chemical bite of something I didn't have time to name. The street tilting sideways beneath me as my legs stopped answering to anything I told them to do. The last thing I registered, before the dark closed all the way over me, was a single thought, clear and terrified and strangely calm all at once. Magnus is going to come looking for me, and when he does, they'll be ready for him too. If you're as curious as I was that night, if you want to know what happens now that they have me, and what it means for both of us, stay close. Subscribe to Nightfall BL Stories and turn on your notifications, because Episode 4, the finale, is coming soon, and I promise you, you don't want to miss it.